And good evening, Santa Cruz. Welcome to Voices from the Village. I am your host for tonight, Sandino Gomez, and we're going to explore a very important topic here in the Santa Cruz community, something that's popped up year after year, as it would be. I'm of course referring to the Beach Flats Garden and the 20-plus year history of community gardening that's happening down near the boardwalk in the Beach Flats neighborhood, and kind of the situation happening around it right now. The land has been loaned to the community by the Seaside Company, and the city has helped manage that land for many years, and there's been a long history of gardeners working the land, creating community, feeding the community, creating a wonderful urban green space within a community that really doesn't have many. And unfortunately, the Seaside Company has decided to reclaim the land and have given the gardeners who have called this space home for more than 20 years a deadline of November 13th, I believe, to remove themselves, well, to abandon the garden, essentially, that this is the last harvest season, that this will be the end of the Beach Flats Community Garden. As you could imagine, a lot of people have been really upset about this and have organized themselves to kind of address the problem. You know, essentially, the community is really looking for a way to maintain this garden in perpetuity moving forward, and hoping to find a way to preserve it permanently so that it won't be threatened every couple years by the threat of the Seaside Company reclaiming the land. And I'm really glad to have a wonderful panel of guests here today, a bunch of different folks, including a gardener who's been involved since the very beginning, and another activist who's been here also since the beginning. So we're going to have a great historical perspective, and then we have another local activist who will be telling us a lot about kind of the current efforts to save the garden and what you can do if you're concerned about this issue as well. So why don't we go ahead and introduce our guests. Starting across the table from me, we have Gloria Nieto, and Gloria was a former director of the wonderful local social services center, Familia Center, and you were part of the kind of original effort to start the garden, is that correct?
In a supportive role.
Yeah.
It was, you know, with all respect to the people who were actually digging in the soil, it was the vision of Gia Grant and Marciano Cruz, who saw an open space that was full of, you know, dead vehicles and a lot of sex workers and drug trade, and they took it upon themselves to energize the community and get the garden started.
Wow, and what year was that?
24 years ago, so I'm no good on the math.
Sounds like about 1991.
Okay.
90, 91, somewhere around there?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll buy that.
Don't count on my math either.
Okay.
Well, thank you for joining us, please.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And to Gloria's left, we have Emilio Martinez Castaneda, who has been a long time, pretty much the entire history of the garden. Emilio has been out there working. And Emilio is a primarily Spanish language speaker. So we're going to do a little bilingual programming here and allow Emilio to speak, and I will do my best to translate his points. So, cambiando idiomas, bienvenidos a la programa, Emilio. Gracias por venir.
Igualmente a usted.
Sí.
Gracias a todo.
Entonces, dinos un poco de usted y cómo has estado involucrado en el jardín, por favor.
No, pues yo tengo ahorita eso que le digo, pero yo me dio un pedacito de primero, como unos 3 surquitos, y ahí me dio la señora esta chía, dio una chía la primera, y ella se fue para San Francisco y ya nos dejó ahí a nosotros, y ahí sembramos, y ahí seguimos sembrando todos los campesinos, y nos ayudamos ahí uno al otro, y ahí nos estamos manteniendo, ayudamos a la gente con lo poquito que nos socorre Dios ahí. Es todo lo que le puedo decir.
Excellent. So Emilio basically just said that he's been involved in the garden since the very beginning. He was one of the first people to receive a plot. It started very humbly, just a lot of people getting together to work, and he received a plot from a woman who's no longer involved in the garden. She moved up to San Francisco, but he's been doing everything he can, and a lot of his compañeros and fellow farmers and gardeners have been doing everything they can to provide food for themselves and for the community. And I believe he said there's not really much more he can say about that. ¿Por qué quieres que seguimos preservando el jardín? ¿Por qué es tan
Porque
importante
mire,
para usted?
el jardín es muy importante, bueno, para todos. Para mí está mejor, porque pues yo ahí me mantengo y ahí está el jardín bonito y todo. ¿Para qué nos van a quitar de ahí? Yo creo hay más terrenos que pueden oscurecer ellos, que ahí se ve bonito. Hay más terrenos que tienen ellos.
Yeah.
Por eso le digo, y ahí estamos, ¿ya para qué nos quitan ahí? Ahí estamos ya plantados. Bueno, que nos quiten, pero que hasta que se arreglen los otros y de ahí nos pasen para allá.
Yeah.
Pues eso es lo que tengo yo. Así hicimos todo, para que nos lo quiten. Está muy bonito, pues para que...
Yeah.
Eso es lo que es.
Seguro.
Seguro.
So Emilio said that essentially this is a very important issue, not only for himself, but for the entire community and for everyone involved. And it is such a pretty space. It's so beautiful. And he asks, why take it from the community? It's been worked for so long. There's so much love and labor that they put into the space to transform it from being a dirty place to being a very, very beautiful place. And why take all that from the community? Like the Seaside Company has other lands. There are other places they could store their equipment. There are other places that they could use. They own a lot of the neighborhood, actually, if you look at maps of who owns what lot. So Emilio brings up the point that there's a lot of other places that the Seaside Company could store their equipment or do whatever it is that they're going to do with the land. And he's, again, asking, why take it after so long and letting it becomes such an important thing to the community. He's just really confused and asking the question, like, why take it? Entonces, muchas gracias por venir y compartir su
Igualmente usted
opinión.
también,
Yeah.
gracias a ustedes todos, a todos los que me han ayudado, porque pues yo pedí ayuda a Michelle cuando me llegó una carta. Y le dije, Michelle, pues no sabemos aquí, vamos a hacer la huelga a ver qué, porque está muy bonito el jardín, ¿verdad? Pues, ni para qué. No hay un jardín como ese ahorita.
Yeah.
Pero a ver, bueno, todo lo digo, esa es mi opinión, todo. Y todos estamos en eso, que no nos lo quiten, pero si no, pues a ver.
Yeah.
O sea, ya le digo, es todo lo que le puedo decir.
Pues gracias por venir. Yeah.
Igualmente a usted.
Emilio said, he's glad that people are paying attention to the cause. He's glad that people are helping. He's really appreciating all the support and solidarity that people have been bringing to the gardeners. And he said he wants to thank Michelle for helping him read the letter that he got originally informing him about kind of what was happening. So, and he just thanks everyone again for the support. Well, to Emilio's left, we have another local activist here. Joe Bonanno's been involved. You've been a Beach Flats resident for a very long time. Well, not very long, many years, probably what?
I moved to the Beach Flats in 2010-ish,
Yeah.
so I'd say about 5 years. And the Beach Flats Garden is one of the first things that I got involved in when I moved to Santa Cruz in 2009. And it's just a really great space. You can feed yourself. It's very rewarding to work on something, and then you do work and then you receive something for it later. It's a very gratifying experience that you can do that in the garden, and you can also learn from really experienced gardeners who've spent their whole lives learning how to garden, not just any piece of land, that piece of land. 20 years learning the climate, the soil, the weather, the different crops that can be grown there well. So it was a really great experience to learn under such skilled teachers in that space. Yeah, and now I'm involved in organizing to save that space, and it's really just a good time to reflect on all the things it does for me and all the things it does for Emilio and this whole community of the Beach Flats. Even the people who don't plant there have a lot to gain from that space. Come together with their friends and family.
Right. So can you tell us a little bit about kind of how either Gloria or Joe, tell us a little bit about how the kind of what's happened essentially, like the city or not the city, the Seaside Company. Was it the city or the Seaside Company that gave notice? Actually, I'm a little confused about.
It is
Who's-
it is the Seaside Company issued. You know, they communicate with the city to essentially lease the land to the city, and they have done so since 1994 is the official date. I believe the city took over management of that garden as a city park, and this entire time the city has managed it as a public space, and they issued a notice, you know, to the city that they weren't going to renew that lease for 2016, and so this obviously without the lease, it can't be a public space because it's no longer leased to the city. So, you know, at the time, I think the initial letter had said that, you know, that it was going to be the entire garden. Not sure exactly how many, you know, what the current plans, some ideas have been put forward by the city. And, you know, we're still trying to figure out what the exact long-term plan is going to be. We have had several meetings. There were some meetings in the Beach Flats community, and there's some upcoming city council meetings that are going to be important turning points in, you know, what everybody's been working for, and we'll find out a lot more at those upcoming events.
Well, and the last meeting that we had down in Beach Flats with the mayor and two city councilors, Cynthia Chase and Micah Posner, that I don't think that they were prepared for the kind of push that they got in that meeting. That because not only was it the issue of the garden, but also that the murals had just been vandalized, and so murals that had been there for a little bit less time than the garden had been painted over. And so they came to the community, and you know, lots of props for them for coming to hear us. But we had over 100 people there, and people were very emotional and really stating clearly that we wanted the city to represent us, and for the representation not to be just of Seaside. So they've been caught in this position of they issued the letter because they're the ones who have the lease with Seaside. And so we push back in a number of ways. And so what we have, as Joe was saying, we have upcoming meetings, but what we heard from Micah Posner was that the city wants to find a permanent solution. Right. And obviously what we want the permanent solution to be is the garden to remain as is where it is.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like the kind of dominant opinion that I've heard. I know the city's proposed to relocate the garden or to make it smaller, if I understand correctly, and does anyone know anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, they passed around some maps that night that showed very small plots, and the gardeners have been very clear that, I mean, one of the landmarks of that garden is the corn, for anybody who's ever been there or not been there, that there's these ginormous stalks of
20
corn.
feet tall stalks, yeah.
And it's my understanding, and I could be wrong, and that corn is not grown anywhere in Santa Cruz except in that garden because of the, you know, kind of the provenance of the seeds, and, you know, that they came from Central America. So you don't see corn like that anywhere else around town. And so one of the first concerns that was raised was that the area that they were offering doesn't have enough room for the corn. And the space that they use for gathering as a community, you know, because there's really community in this community garden.
I was there yesterday for the community meeting, and yeah, there was probably 40 people sitting in a circle, and certainly I've seen people socialize and hang out in the garden and use it as, like you say, a community gathering space multiple times.
Yeah, and our boss here can speak a little to that, because he's really been emphasizing the need for that as a gathering place.
Great. Why don't we change languages here? Estaban hablando de como la importancia del jardín como un espacio comunitario, como un espacio donde se pueden juntar y pasar tiempo juntos y hacer actividades positivas en el jardín. ¿Puedes hablar un poquito de este aspecto del jardín, por favor, de la comunidad?
No, pues que hablo, pues nomás eso, es que ahí nos divertimos todos. Van muchas gentes ahí a divertirse y estamos trabajando y nos ayudamos uno al otro. Ahí va mucha gente a grabar las milpas, bonito todo aquel maizal, aquellas flores, todo aquello está bien bonito. En los calabazales, las chayotes, va mucha gente, le da gusto. Pues, ¿por qué nos van a quitar ahí? Pues tienen más terreno, ¿no?
Sí.
Ahí estamos, que no sean ni gatos con uno. Está.
Otros terrenos, seguro.
Pues ahí estamos.
Y como, ¿me puedes decir un poquito de las juntas que ocurren en el jardín?
Do you want to translate what he just
Yeah,
said?
that's a good idea, actually.
No, no. Ellos-
Un momentito.
Yeah, un momentito, perdón. Well, I mean, I asked Emilio a little bit about kind of the working in the garden and the community that's there, and he said that, you know, it's a very fun space, that everyone who goes there has a lot of fun working with each other, that there's a kind of camaraderie between each other, and they have a lot of fun. That, you know, there's just beautiful plots of land, like everyone gets to kind of plant what they want, and there's very beautiful flowers, and even including things like chayotes, which you don't see everywhere, very unique kind of plants. So, and again, he finished with the question, like, why would they want to take that social space away from us, and that very beautiful physical space away from us? Sí, entonces, ¿puedes decir un poquito más de cómo, like, cuando la gente pasa un tiempo en el jardín, qué hacen más que trabajar en el jardín?
Pues
¿Hacen otras
trabajar,
cosas? Como,
¿no? Pues se van a trabajar, llegan en las tardes cansados y van a escarbar allí y a regar y pues y a barrer allí, está muy bonito. Va uno, va el otro y así nos ayudamos uno al otro. ¿Eh? Van mujeres o hombres, oye, dame un cilantro para el caldo, que vas a un caldito, ahí va el cilantro. ¿Eh? Todo, no, pues ahí estamos. ¿Eh? Por el de Dios, todo está bien.
yeah.
Porque son así con nosotros, pero tanto años de trabajar ahí, quitándolo, pues se ve bien bonito ahí, todo aquello verde, verde ahí para la... Van muchos turistas y se meten y retratan ahí los jardines. Está bien para la familia, va a las escuelas a divertirse ahí los niños, ahí tienen su jardín los niños, también.
Yeah.
Eso es todo.
Yeah, I mean, Emilio says that they take a real pride in keeping it clean, and they help each other out when need be. They don't mind, you know, planting something for each other, or if someone needs some cilantro and you've got some, like, they always share. And it's been like that essentially for more than 20 years, and that people use the space and like the space, and it's not just people in the community that Emilio was saying, that tourists stop by, check it out, really appreciate the beauty of the space, and, you know, next to the boardwalk, it's kind of a nice alternative, and that schools and school children come to the garden to see all of the different plants, and a lot of children have their own little small plots within the garden. So yeah, he's kind of just sharing a lot of sort of the community that's there in addition to just like the plants. Great. Well, speaking of the community, I know we have a short 1-minute video about the Beach Flats community. So if our mentors in the studio could line that up for us, we'll go ahead and watch this short video and be right back here on Voices from the Village.
Aquí no era jardín antes, tiraba basura, estaba abierto aquí, era el camino, y ahora ya no, ahora ya todo tiene puerta, cada quien tiene un pedacito. Como no pagamos, sembramos cualquier cosa, siembran chile, tomate, frijol, bueno, viene mucha gente, lo regalamos. No, lo vendemos.
All right, that was a brief echo. That was a brief video about the Beach Flats Community Garden, and I think it's really amazing to see it. I mean, we've been sitting here talking about it for a few minutes, but to see that amazing bounty of different plants, fruits, vegetables, everything. What a gorgeous space. Do any of you want to just reflect on what you saw?
Yeah, and one other thing I would mention about that video is the Domingo Mendoza was in that video, and he's not here with us tonight, but he's one of the original gardeners also, and he's been planting the land for over 20 years, so he has that same experience of gardening there, and he was one of my mentors along with Emilio in my learning process, and it's one of the things you see there was gladiolas. That's like a fun plant, full beautiful flower. You see marigolds. You see other beneficial plants that bring, good insects. And he talks about all the food that we grow. I think that comes up a lot. What do we grow? What do we grow there? What is grown in the garden? And that's sort of the identity of what we're doing. The food that we like to eat, the food we like to have. And the flowers that are important to our community and our events. The marigold is a very cultural flower, and there's tons of those big, bright orange ones that you just love to see this time of year.
Right.
Well, and they're valuable in terms of bringing bees, but also Day of the Dead is coming.
Right.
And those are used for the altars on Day of the Dead, so it's useful and symbolic.
Yeah.
And one other thing on the Day of the Dead is I was talking to one of the gardeners. He said that he plants the flowers for a specific family. So he's not just planting them to give them to anybody. He knows who these flowers are for, and they know which loved one, which past loved one they're using these particular flowers to commemorate. So from seed to harvest, they're grown for a specific family.
Right.
Some of the flowers, others are obviously grown for the whole community. But I just like that idea of planting flowers for somebody specifically for a specific event and time, and just every day you're working on them, you're thinking about that person and those people.
Right. And this is a year-round effort. I mean, the garden doesn't go dormant at any point, really, right?
Pretty much. I mean, it gets a little sleepy when it's soggy out, but other than that.
Yeah. I feel
That hasn't been much of an issue.
Yeah, not the past couple of years, huh? Great. Well, thank you, Joe. For our viewers out there, I want to make sure you know that this is a live program. That is, if you're watching on October 11th, 2015. And we would love, right there, see that? There it is. Please feel free to call in 425-8848, extension 30. I know one or two of you have tried to call in. Please just let it ring for a minute. Don't feel like we're ignoring you. Just give me a second to let people finish their comments. And we'd love to hear from you as well. So give us a call, 425-8848, extension 30. Boom, we can put you right on the air, okay? We want to hear from you, Santa Cruz. Speaking of which, I believe we might have a question from our studio audience. Let's see here. Oh, look, it's the co-host of Voices from the Village, Steve Pleich.
Thank you, Sandy. Steve Pleich. Thanks you all for doing all this great work. Gloria had mentioned that you were having meetings where there were 100 community members and 3 council members. My question is, to what extent has the Seaside Company been involved in these negotiations, and do you think that they'll be able to come and offer some, helpful resolution as you move forward? Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you for your question, Steve.
You want to field that, or should I?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you want to take that? Or?
Yeah. So we haven't had a face-to-face conversation yet with Seaside. There's a meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
With the same 3 members of the City Council. Cynthia Chase organized this meeting, asked Seaside to come, because we had asked them to come to the garden, and out of respect for the gardeners, to have face-to-face conversations, so
Certainly.
that these weren't just being done through letters and kind of this awkward position that, you know, we own the land, so therefore you get out. So at one of those meetings, like that you attended yesterday, in a previous meeting, the phone call was made right there, you know, to call and say, we would like the Seaside Company to come here and see our faces, to be respectful, and you know, and have those conversations. And I just think that there's a lot of smart people involved, and that we should be able to find some solution that's a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, there certainly is space around the area. I mean, there's massive parking lots just right across the street that, you know, aren't filled every day. You know, let's just be real.
Yeah. But it goes back to the question of, we don't know what they want it for.
Right.
You know, because
have they stated anything? Like
the letter that came from the city said that they wanted to use it for landscaping. Now, we don't know what that means.
We'll ask the gardeners to do it for them.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, you got experts right here.
I know, exactly.
Oh, man. So tell us a little bit more about that community meeting, because I know I heard it was pretty contentious. There were no representatives from the Seaside Company, and that people were essentially complaining that you know, our local city council people got basically put into the position of being spokespeople for the Seaside Company, instead of the Seaside Company speaking to the community respectfully. Like, I understand there was no representatives there. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. There was, they say, you know, up to 100 community members turned out for that, and you know, we had a really good discussion, and the Mayor Don Lane and the council members, like, there weren't even enough chairs for all the people that came, so obviously they weren't expecting the kind of turnout that happened.
Yeah.
And so they really did a good job of listening to the things that we had to say, and it was important for us to say that. And one of the things that really came up is that we want to talk directly with them, because it's important to pull all the pieces together and, you know, have an open discussion.
Yeah.
And so I think that came out of, you know, the movement to save the garden. You, like, set that up, and that's a really powerful thing to be able to meet directly with you know, all parties involved: the politics, the landowners, the people who use the community garden.
Right. And yeah, I know people were angry also, and Gloria, you alluded to this a little bit earlier about, you know, I guess last year the city kind of, you could say, made a mistake and painted over a historic mural in the Beach Flats community without really properly informing the community about the revision plans. That was settled just recently through a lawsuit, and just shortly after that was settled, there was several acts of vandalism in the Beach Flats park, including the kind of final defacement of two very important murals that did remain. I understand there were kind of 3 murals there, one of which was erased last year by the city, and then 2 of which were destroyed by vandalism recently. Could any of you tell us about that, and any thoughts about that as well?
Yeah, I feel like that moment where the murals were vandalized, it really brought forth a lot of the problems that are present in the Beach Flats right now, and that's sort of that, in a lot of ways, the city may have pulled back from the Beach Flats. They stopped funding the community center several years ago. I think that was in 2009. At that time, in 2009, they also tried to close the garden. That was the last time that the garden was trying to be, was being threatened. So
right.
They, took the money away from the community center, and then they didn't close the garden. But now here we are again trying to close the garden, and they painted over the mural, and there's just all these things that the city is like pulling their resources out of that community, and it's unfortunate because that community is just like any other community in the city. Everybody lives there and works there, and they want to have their kids have a place to play, have their family a place to hang out, grow food, cook food.
Yeah.
And
well, and at that meeting too, the mayor, Don Lane, acknowledged that the city had not been as attentive to Beach Flats as it had been in the past. And so I think that by them pulling the resources out, that they lost the communication, that the direct communication that they had with the neighborhood. And many people got up at that meeting and said, you know, there's issues with the master plan of how much green space is supposed to be there. Do you treat other neighborhoods like this? And you know, across the board, the answer is that Beach Flats sunk back in terms of priority because the neighborhood, the community made itself better. I mean, if you think about it, Beach Flats has done everything that many urban areas want to have, you know, the area's been cleaned up, the community polices itself, you know, that it isn't the source of problems that it has been like back when I was at Familia Center. And so that's the reward is, you know, having resources pulled, having the community, having the mural painted over, and I was, you know, I painted on that mural. I know exactly like where I painted and what part of Pancho Villa I painted on, and so I know where I painted on this part, you know, these new murals, and seeing all the young people coming out saying, I want to paint part of this, I want to paint part of it, because you know, this other piece was taken away. And the city thought they were doing the right thing, and obviously it turned out that there was a gap in communication, and so they're recognizing that that there needs to be more effort.
Right. Yeah, and something you said, Joe, just a second ago, really made me think about, like, you know, talking about the Beach Flats as a you know, problematic community, or you know, as it is perceived or is kind of presented too often, unfortunately. But I think the kind of 800-pound gorilla in the room is there is no other community that is so impacted by the #1 source of revenue and the #1 source of tourism and the #1 source of probably congestion and traffic, which is of course the boardwalk. Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, I mean, has a very serious and real impact on the Beach Flats community, and yet, you know, it's certainly a benefit to the city, but how can the city share those benefits with the community? And it seems like a real shame that, you know, as the city benefits from the boardwalk and everything it does, it's not able to, what you two said about, you know, pulling back resources, that seems like the exact wrong approach, that, you know, they should invest in that community to help it deal with the impact of traffic and trash and, you know, people rolling through,
noise,
looking for things, noise. I mean, it's just a constant
screaming
and roller coastering and all that.
Look at the hollering that was going on about the plane routes going over different parts of Santa Cruz, you know, but yet when you go down there during the summer and on the weekends, it's unending. You know, it's roller coaster, it's screaming, it's drunk people at night, it's
car horns.
Car horns.
It's Eddie Money, Y&T,
Right.
every Friday night, free concert.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's not diss Eddie Money too hard here. Hold on. Yeah, definitely. Well, I'd like to ask Emilio a question here. So, Emilio, es que estuvimos hablando mucho de como los cambios en el vecindario de los Beach Flats. Estaban hablando un poquito de cómo parece que la ciudad está quitando recursos de la comunidad, hablando del mural, hablando de cómo la ciudad ahora no apoya al centro comunitario que está ahí en el Beach Flats, hablando del que quieren tomar el jardín. Se parece que están como tomando de la comunidad. ¿Puedes hablar un poquito de cómo parece a usted, como una persona que ha vivido mucho tiempo en el barrio? Pues.
A mí me parece pues un poco mal, porque cómo nos van a quitar, si no se arregla, pues ya, porque ellos dijeron que iban a quitar una parte, iba a la de atrás, iban a dejar para allá, pero pues ¿qué nos van a dejar? Nada. Y todos no quieren aceptar que nos quiten eso, y después nos dijeron que nos iban a dar otro por ahí, pero va a alargar tiempo. ¿Y qué van a hacer en esos tiempos de diokis? Sin hacer nada. Ya la tierra esa ya está bien trabajadita, ya va a sembrar a gusto, ya está ya. Pero bueno, pues si no se puede, a ver. Pues muchos que den su voto también, pues ahí dan votos los jardineros. Lo mismo que yo van a decir ellos, que se los dejen, pues. Pero si no se arregla, que dejen la mitad, vamos a ver cómo venimos.
¿Cómo? ¿Otra vez?
Que si no se arregla, pues van a dejar nomás la mitad, dicen.
Ah, sí.
Pero no vamos a hablar todos. Quieren uno para allá y otro para acá, no se conviene. Pero no nos conviene, pero ahí a ver qué se oye. Es todo.
Gracias. Entonces, Francisco. I asked him a little bit about what we were talking about with Gloria and Joe, just that it seems that the city's kind of taking resources away from the community, and does Emilio have an opinion on that, or could he talk a little bit about it? And he basically just said, well, it's bad. Like, why would they do this? And why, again, kind of talking about the larger picture, why would they do that? That's not good. But then in particular, talking about the garden again, and like, why take it? And they're talking about maybe they'll leave them just a part of the garden, but you know, he doesn't necessarily believe that. He's worried that they're going to take it all. What happens in the time in between when they lose the garden now and when they get their supposed replacement garden? What will they do in the meanwhile? How will they grow food? Where will it be? And you know, will it be enough space? Like the people that work in the garden essentially don't believe so.
Yes.
Great. Well, I do believe we have a video from that community meeting that we were just talking about a second ago. So if our magicians in the boardroom want to line up the Jose Lucas video, we will watch that one. And this is a little clip from Nopal Media, local independent media company, sharing some of the voices from this, this meeting. So we'll be right back, Voices from the Village, talking about the Beach Flats Community Garden right after this.
Esperamos que la ciudad, al señor alcalde,
We want the city, senior mayor,
que tome en cuenta
that you take into account,
que no somos 17 jardineros.
we're not 17 gardeners.
No los aprovechamos solo nosotros,
We don't just take advantage of this for ourselves.
sino que toda la comunidad que quiera ir a traer cosas, allí están.
It's for the whole community that wants to come and take things, there it is.
Nosotros pagamos para el agua,
We pay for the water,
compramos las plantas para plantarlas,
we buy the plants and plant,
raspamos la tierra para sembrar, para que esté el producto.
we work the soil.
Trabajo de nuestro sudor,
We
de
work
nuestra
with our
gente.
sweat of our brow. We work
No
with
solo
it,
para nosotros,
not just for us,
sino para los demás que lo necesiten.
but for
Gracias.
everyone in the community.
All right.
Echo.
I got to remember to do that. You just heard from Jose Lucas at the meeting, I believe it was September 28th?
That
September?
sounds right.
All right, yeah, I think that's what it said on the video. Yeah, September 28th in the Beach Flats Community Center. Over 100 people crowded into the space to talk to city officials and share some of their words. And we just heard from Jose Lucas, and I'm just curious if any of you have a response to kind of what he said. Estoy curioso si tienes una respuesta o si quieres hacer un comentario de lo que ha dicho nuestro compañero Jose Lucas.
Pues es lo mismo que les digo. ¿eh?
The same thing. He says,
No.
I'd say the same thing that he said.
Pues es lo mismo que yo les voy a decir también, que pues cómo nos lo van a quitar si trabajamos y dejamos sudor todo para todo.
Yeah, why get rid of it if we all work there and we all sweat there?
Y pues navegamos ahí mucho y pues esa es mi opinión, como dijo él, la misma.
He's in total agreement with what Jose said. Absolutely. What do you think?
Ahí siembra.
I like how he says we're not just 20 gardeners or no somos solo 20, somos una comunidad.
Por eso le digo.
And, we're not just 20 gardeners, we're an entire community. Each gardener has a family, so that's, that makes, if there's 20 gardeners and they have 4 family members, that's 80 people, and then they have 10 friends, that's, we're just talking about hundreds of people that use this space. It's not just 20 people, that benefit from the garden. I think that's a really important point to be made. It's not just for the 20 people that plant there.
Well, and I would add that it's 20 people who live here.
Yeah.
And as opposed to people who come and use all the infrastructure of the roads and everything else that come to the boardwalk and leave their money there. You know, so
Yeah.
does the city want to invest in this community or not? And again, I'm hopeful that we're going to move forward in a positive direction with, you know, with the city wanting to come up with creative ideas that benefit everybody, and so that everybody feels respected.
Right. I know I had heard kind of through the grapevine that Rochelle Norian had suggested maybe a land swap with the city. I know they own a public parking lot just across the way from the garden, and could there be a way to work out some kind of exchange there to let them store their landscaping or agricultural equipment in a place where it should be,
Or
a vacant
e-
lot instead of a community garden?
Or why doesn't Seaside just sell the plot to
Right.
the city?
Right.
You know, is the city in a position to just buy the land? And the question has been asked numerous times
Right.
of Seaside, and the answer has been a resounding no. So that's why there's been a need to try to figure out, you know, if the land is just bought, then all of this is solved.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
And
there
the
isn't need
community
for
gains a
land
new park.
swaps. But, you know, there's other organizations that have been trying to do the same kind of things, like Habitat, trying to buy up a couple places down there to refurbish so that they're providing needed housing,
Yeah.
better housing. And
Very much needed housing.
yeah, so they did a land swap with Seaside.
Oh, wow.
So, you
The
know.
precedent's there then.
Yeah, there's a lot of precedence for movement in all directions, and so I just think that the city needed to hear from all of us, you know,
Yeah.
but primarily from the gardeners, and to see that there's so much support for them.
And there's, you know, precedent of the city purchasing land to be green space. I mean, this is not a unique thing that's happened in Santa Cruz. I mean, Santa Cruz prides itself on its kind of green belts and the green open space that we've preserved all over this city. And yet, you know, in this extremely heavily impacted community, the people have carved themselves out their own little niche of green space, which does fit into the parks plan, which does fit into kind of the desire of the community to have open and green spaces for people to enjoy. And yet, it's really a shame that they don't see the value in that, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I think they do, but they're trying to find the right way to
Right.
negotiate that, if you will.
Well, you know, look at so many areas all over the country talk about food deserts.
Right.
We have a food oasis,
Yes.
you know, in the
Yeah.
middle of an urban area that should be celebrated.
Right.
And that's why I'm hopeful that tomorrow the conversations will be about that.
Right. No, that's a great point. I was thinking that myself and trying to figure out the right context to bring it up. But certainly, I mean, there's like a liquor store in the Beach Flats.
And then one of the ton of
market, but nothing really else.
well, there is a
There's
lot
a
of places to
psychic.
buy food. There's a lot of places to buy food in that neighborhood, and they're all at the boardwalk.
Right,
And it's
junk
like
food.
corn dogs
You can
and,
buy junk
and
food.
Twinkies and things. You
Yeah.
know, so it's
Deep
like
fried though.
there's
gracias.
there's no access to healthy food in that community. The markets are, you know, they're liquor stores. They're not produce markets, so they have some tomatoes and potatoes and stuff, but it's not organic. It's not fresh.
Right.
You know, so if you want those things, the only way to get them within walking distance of that neighborhood is to grow it yourself.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just really important to acknowledge that there is no alternative food source for healthy, organic, fresh produce in that neighborhood.
Certainly. Yeah.
Well, and it's not
Affordable.
just that, it's Beach Flats and Beach Hill.
Yeah.
You know,
There's
that's inclusive of that the city's general plan, according, my understanding is that there's supposed to be some acreage involved with that number of people living in that kind of density.
Right.
So that's, again, the question, like, how is this area zoned? And how was it changed?
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's an obvious need for access to this kind of food, and rather than building another grocery store in the neighborhood, which there probably isn't a lot of room for, why not just preserve this space where people can do it themselves? And like Joe said, the produce is fresh, organic, and connected. And like, as you said, Gloria, as well, there's, varieties of fruits and vegetables there that are specifically kind of acclimatized to the area and adapted to the soil and all that. I mean, seeds take on the characteristic of where they're grown, and there's a 20-year legacy here of incredible cultivation.
We were talking the other day, and if he went through the list of everything that's growing there, and could just explain right now, like everything that's growing there, that would be, I think people would be impressed with.
Yeah, that'd be a great thing to end on. We have one more video we're going to go out with here in a second, so that's a wonderful suggestion, Gloria. Emilio, por favor, que si nos pueden decir un poquito de como una lista de todas las cosas que están cultivando en el jardín ahora. ¿Puedes decir a nuestra audiencia todas las cosas que están creciendo en el jardín?
Pues mire, el primero...
Lo más que puedes, porque estoy seguro que hay muchos.
Mi primero es el maíz.
Like corn. First thing is corn, the amazing corn.
El frijol.
Beans.
El patol, un patol blanco, ¿verdad? Un patol blanco.
Patol, sí. That's like it's bonito. Another type of bean.
Okay, another type of bean.
Es otro. La papa.
Potatoes.
El repollo, el col, ¿quién sabe cómo se le dicen?
Cabbage, repollo.
Zanahoria.
Carrots.
Cilantro.
¿Qué más?
Chayotes.
Chile. Tomate. Nopales. Tunas, aceitunas. Calabazas. No, hombre, sí hay mucho. Todo.
Nopales, cactus, pumpkins,
squash.
Things that don't have names in English.
Es todo.
Like the sila coyote, which is a funky gourd squash thing. It's like this big.
Well, we have one last video here. Thank you so much. I believe we'll have time to come back for one last comment, but why don't we check out, talking about all the bounty of the garden, why don't we check out this video here that we have. It's called Domingo's Garden and features Don Domingo, one of the original gardeners of Beach Flats. So let's check out this video right here on Voices from the Village. We'll be right back after this.
Hey, welcome to the hood. Don't you know that I'll be around to guide you through your weakest moments, to leave them behind you. Turning nightmares, only shadows. Cast some light in.
This is a community that's been a Mexican or Latino or Chicano community for years. Some light and be alright for now. Crossing so long, heavy on. This is like the barrio in Santa Cruz, really.
A lot of people's drinking, a lot of people's, cocaine, something. It's stupid.
So what you have is generations of families who come to this neighborhood, who have this connection to this neighborhood.
Catch some light and be alright.
In terms of this neighborhood being close-knit, I think that it has to be because a lot of the issues that these people are dealing with are very similar issues of jobs or travel or family or homeland, so it brings them all together. They have to support each other.
Crossing so long the boulevard.
I found out about the garden when they were going to close it, so I actually didn't even know it existed before that, before March of '08. So I found out about it because my friends called me and they said, Carly, the city's shutting down the Beach Flats Community Garden.
A lot of people in the neighborhood says, ain't no garden, ain't no more garden. Why?
The city had communicated to all the gardeners that they needed to turn in their keys and that they could not plant anything. This year, we decided what would happen is that the people who had been planting here would continue planting. Those people that'd work the land would continue planting. And then we cleared a new space in the back, and those spaces were going to be offered off or raffled off to people in the community. I bring this up because it demonstrates sort of two different ways of viewing the land distribution. We have the city who wants the land to be raffled off, whereas the gardeners here come from like more of a Mexican or indigenous culture, whereas if you want to work land or you want a spot in the garden, you come and you work the land, or you contribute somehow to working the land. You don't call somebody up and say, hey, put me on a list. You show up and you say, how can I help? What can I do? Is there a spot for me to plant? And so what we're doing now is trying to reconcile those two beliefs with the city, because the city does hold the lease to this land, so we have to work with them to some extent. At the same time, I mean, these gardeners maintain this space. There was like some trust issues with the city. Like the gardeners really felt like they were lied to, so they needed someone they could trust to be sort of a liaison between the city and them. And I think Domingo kind of saw that I could do that, and so he kind of welcomed me. So Domingo came here in the early 1970s. He's the jefe, or the boss of the garden. So when any of the gardeners have questions, they go to Domingo to ask what to do.
Pues Reina, tu amiga vino, ya no se va a sembrar, dice. Dice, visa a la gente. Pues nada, pues digo, ya no vengo a parar aquí. Ya. Arranqué mis plantas, arranqué los chiles, arranqué un chayote que tengo ahí. Me dijo, Reina, dile a las personas que ya no se sembran. Le digo, yo, ¿por qué le voy a decir tú, dile, no yo? Y Reina creo le pagaba el condado porque manda aquí. Pero ella se agarra todo el dinero. Le dan para la herramienta, para la manguera, pero ella nunca compra.
There was community members and gardeners and activists and the representatives from the city. And the gardeners met sort of outside of that and came up with their own solution of how the garden could continue. This is one of the things they told us, that they didn't have city staff time to administer the garden. So the gardeners saw that and found a solution that they would come up with a committee to sort of do the administering of the garden, so that would take that burden off of the city. Higher ups in the city found out that the garden was being closed down. The Sentinel ran a piece on it that the city of Santa Cruz was shutting down the Beach Flats Community Garden, and they had a picture of Domingo on the front, so it was very pro keeping it open. So I think that pressured the city as well, because there's actually two other community gardens in Santa Cruz, and it looks really bad if you're closing down the Mexican community garden and not the other two. Gardening is a big part of like Mexican culture. It's just important that young males have role models that are gardeners, especially Mexican males, because when we look to the media, I mean, there's not too many strong Mexican male role models, and I think that these gardeners provide a role model. And it's all organic because when he learned to plant, you didn't use pesticides or anything. So, and I think in this time period when communities are looking for models of how to run community gardens or run urban gardening, that this is really a garden that they could look to figure out how to do it.
Pues cuando empezó estaba muy feo y ahorita está muy bonito ya.
Lara plants, flowers, stuff. Beautiful.
Pues me vine a trabajar porque allá en mi tierra pagan muy barato, luego no llueve, no se da la cosecha.
He's been planting since he was 7, you know, so he knows a lot. Now he's 74 or older.
Luego me levanto a las 4, a las 5, voy a barrer la calle, luego me estoy regando, bueno, cualquier cosa. Aquí nomás a ver vengo a limpiar por ahí, no siento que se va el día. Luego vienen mis amigos, estamos platicando, y se va el día rápido.
remembered.
I remembered that time. Thank you so much, Santa Cruz, for watching, for paying attention. My name is still Sandino Gomez. I've been your host tonight. I want to thank Gloria, Emilio, and Joe for coming down here and talking with us. Please give us some last words, if you will. Let us know how people could get involved. What can we do? Is there a place we can go to get information? Is there any actions we should take? We got a minute left to go. Why don't you just let us know?
We have a website, beachflatsgarden.org, www.beachflatsgarden.org. Everything we're doing is posted there. We also have a Facebook page. You can find us on Facebook by searching for the Beach Flats Community Garden. We have a petition. If you haven't signed it, please sign it. We have over 2,000 signatures on that. We have letters of support from businesses and organizations and notable, public figures. So if you can go to our website and write a letter, nothing you can do, write a letter to the city council, write a letter to the Seaside Company, write an editorial to the newspaper. If you want to contact somebody from the garden directly, go to the website. You can get methods to contact me, Gloria, Emilio, other people who are involved in the movement. Anything else? Because city council meetings coming up on the 27th. Yeah, more information on that will be available on the website and Facebook. Yeah.
Thank you so much, you guys. Santa Cruz, have a great night. Beachflatsgarden.org. I'm Sandino Gomez saying, que siga la cosecha. Continue the harvests, please. Have a great night.
Que siga.